The Idaho Technology Council presents Innovation Matters, a look at innovators, rule breakers, and thought leaders from across Idaho. From our studios in beautiful downtown Boise, here is your host, the CEO and founder of the Idaho Technology Council, Jay Larson.
Hello, Idaho. This is Jay Larson, the CEO of the Idaho Technology Council. Today, I am excited to have you join me on the relaunched Innovation Matters podcast, where I will be joined by leaders, thinkers, and innovators from across the Idaho ecosystem. Today, we're excited to be joined by Paris Cole, the recently retired CEO of Truckstop.com, to talk about his background, the rise of Truckstop.com, and what next is in store for Paris. So this segment is a teaser for Paris's fireside that he will be giving at the 2022 Capital Connect Conference, which will take place on April 26th at the Boise State University Simplot Ballroom. Paris, welcome to Innovation Matters.
Thank you, Jay, for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. So, this is great. Paris, you just stepped down as the executive chair of the Idaho Technology Council. You, ironically, you are at, 4 months later, you're now stepping down as CEO of Truckstop.com. A lot of change in your life.
Yes, a lot. And I did not plan it all to happen at kind of this time or within a few months of each other. That's just how it happened to work out. But yeah.
Well, it is. It's just worked out. So talk a little bit about what's happening right now. About. Was it 3 years ago, Paris, when Iconic came and purchased for about almost nearly $1 billion, purchased Truckstop.com, and now, it's been a wild ride, hasn't it, since that Iconic came into the picture?
It has been. We've had, like always, we've always grown at Truckstop. Every single year we've been in existence for now over 26 years. But we've continued to have great momentum behind us. We accomplished a number of things over the last 3 years with Iconic, and we'll continue to grow and continue to serve our customers in new and innovative ways in the future. So it's been great. For the last 6.5 years, almost or so, I've been CEO, and as great as those years have been, and as much success as we've accomplished, we're actually just beginning, in my mind, in terms of what we can do into the future. And so that's part of the reason why I decided to retire, is that there is a number of opportunities in the future, and Truckstop needs a leader that can go after those opportunities and doesn't have some of the personal reasons. There are some things that I want to do in the next couple of years, and it would make it difficult to be CEO and do those personal things as well. And so for that reason, as I talked with the board, and we just mutually agreed that now's a good time for me to retire, because we've had such great success over the last few years, and we expect great success over the coming years as well.
Yeah, your growth has been extraordinary. To be able to have that type of vision for the future and the future market opportunities for Truckstop is amazing. So if you could, Paris, just step back a couple steps. For those listeners that are on with us and they don't really know what Truckstop.com does, can you tell us briefly what you do?
Sure. So you can think of Truckstop as a marketplace. We're more than that, but in simplistic terms, you can think of it like a marketplace. On one side of the marketplace, we have freight brokers and shippers who have goods that need to be moved. And for maybe most people that don't know a lot about transportation logistics, although we're all becoming transportation logistics experts because of COVID, we've all experienced the challenges here. But most freight is moved through small carriers in the United States. It's a very fragmented industry, and so for freight brokers and shippers who want to move freight, it's a challenge to find these small carriers. And so when a freight broker or shipper can't find a carrier, what they do is they'll post that freight out on our website, out on truckstop.com. And then we have been able to work with and find these small carriers in such a large number that on the other side of our marketplace, we have these carriers that come and search for the freight that's been posted by these freight brokers and shippers. And so truckstop.com is a technology company. We're a marketplace where freight brokers and shippers post their freight, and then these small carriers come to our site and search for it. And then ultimately, we help the two parties find one another, make a match, so to speak, and then allow those carriers to haul their freight for the brokers and shippers. So that's how roughly about, depending on the year and how you calculate it, roughly 15% of all freight is moved in the United States is through marketplaces like Truckstop, and we're considered what they call the spot market, and so we're a leader in the spot market freight.
Wow! So this 15% comes in through these small. I want to use the word boutique type things, right? They're a smaller trucker, and can you draw? This is really kind of a question now because of COVID and all of the supply chain stuff that's taking place. Can you draw a correlation between what's taking place with the goods and services they're moved across the country and the health of the economy?
Sure. So typically what you see is that when the economy is doing very well, so a lot of goods are being produced, a lot of goods are being purchased by consumers, and that means a lot of freight is moving through the industry. When that happens, there becomes a capacity shortage in the industry, meaning that there aren't enough trucks, or at least not enough trucks in the right spot to move all of this freight. So what we see then is that the cost to move that freight increases. It's just simple economics,
yeah.
But so as demand increases and there's a capacity shortage, rates increase, and then that lasts for a time until these carriers are able to buy enough trucks and hire enough drivers to start catching up with the demand. And then ultimately that leads to an oversupply of capacity, and rates will start to decrease. And then typically that's when the economy starts to slow, roughly about the same time. And so it's actually pretty interesting if you go back and look over time with pretty strong frequency or regularity. You can see freight. Those rates cycle every 18 to 24 months. And it typically corresponds with how the economy is doing. Now, there are other factors that influence that, COVID being one. But it's generally speaking, if the economy is doing well, lots of goods that are being moved, then the transportation logistics industry is doing well as well.
As well with that. Well, that's so let's shift a little bit back to just this idea of iconic, because of this is a great venture fund, right, that came in, purchased truckstop.com, and it happened pretty fast, didn't it? I mean, wasn't this tell us that story.
Yeah. So Iconic is what they call a growth equity fund. And so what they're focused on is later stage companies that are well-established companies that have already found product market fit, have strong revenues and strong growth. And so back in 2019, as a company with our board at that time, we made the decision that we were ready for the next phase of our growth. And as a part of that, we wanted another, we already had a private equity firm as an investor, a firm called Bergal Sagemount. And they were a wonderful firm, but they were a smaller firm. And so to really take advantage of the opportunities for growth, we wanted a larger firm, a firm with different capabilities than what Bergal had. And so we started to go through a process. We hired an investment bank, a firm to help us with this process to go out and find potential investors in the business. And we actually didn't get as far along in the process as we were thinking we might. And that's because once we started the process, Iconic became very aggressive, very excited about our business very quickly. And within the matter of just a few weeks, they made an offer, and we were able to get all of that work done in something like I can't remember. It was, I think, 17 days or something like that.
Extremely fast.
Had it all done in essence. So it was quick, very quick. But
I was just to let you know, I was involved with a merger from US West Cider to AirTouch that took 6 years. So this was that's 17 days is crazy fast. So
now part of that, I should say, we had a number of discussions with Iconic before that. So they already knew the business. They'd already done some research long before we even started our process. But once we actually got into the formal talks with them and got things done, it happened pretty quickly.
The interesting thing, though, is that they had to see the opportunity with Truck Stop and what you have been doing and growing there with Scott Mosgrip and so forth. So, and your team. So now you've been through this whole thing. What are the couple pieces of advice you'd give to a company that's probably earlier stage, trying to look at how their growth, how they can get the right type of capital to continue the growth and scaling of their company? What kind of suggestions would you give them?
Yeah. One thing that I have found, and this is different than some people, but I have found that it really helps to talk with potential investors well before you actually need the money. And the reason why I say that is that if you as a company can prove, if you talk to an investor, let's say today, and you tell them how you're doing and you don't need the money, you're not asking for money, and then you go to that same investor a year from now or 6 months or 9 months from now, and you show them the growth that you've had since that first discussion, that gives that investor more trust in your business and in your business model. And that's really what you're trying to sell as the CEO, or as you're raising capital. You're in essence, you're trying to create trust with that investor base. And if you wait, I believe if you wait until you need the money and you only talk to that investor one time, right at the same time you're asking for a bunch of money, it doesn't give that investor an opportunity to create trust in you and in your business. And so I think that's a mistake that some CEOs make, is they focus so much time, and rightly so, they're trying to grow the business, and I think there's time for that. But I also think, if as a CEO, if you have expectations of raising capital, you should be out talking to investors well before you go through any type of process.
Yeah, you got to cultivate those relationships on the capital side, right? I mean, just like you would if you're working to be able to get customers to be able to buy your product, you got to cultivate the relationships with those capital suppliers, right?
I think of it like a marriage. Most people wouldn't show up on their wedding day and having only met their wife, 10 days before or a month before they get married. That doesn't create a lot of trust for either party.
Yeah, that's a very good. I like that. So you have to go and work hard at it, right? So
right. You need to develop those relationships. Make sure that the investors trust you and trust your business, and as well gives you an opportunity to meet them and talk with them and make sure that they're going to be a good fit for your business.
A lot of times you don't know it's going to be developed, right? But you have to, if you don't put the time and energy into it, you won't even know what the opportunity is, because people usually want to have that type of relationship as they invest, hundreds of millions of dollars. So that's a good point, Ferris. What's another piece of advice you'd give?
I think the other thing to remember is that as the CEO or as the business, you're the expert in operating the business. The investors are not. And while the investors may have great ideas and they may have some things that they want you to do, I think it's important to remember that as the leader of the company or leaders of the company, that you know the business best. And so you should find an investor that values your expertise and your understanding of the business and understanding of the industry. There are some firms out there that have a playbook, and they ask you to just follow their playbook regardless of what's happening within the business. And I guess I personally don't believe in that. I think every business is unique, even within the business. So things change year over year, and what's good for the business in one year may not be good for the business the next. And so as you're out raising capital, out talking with investors, make sure that they value you as a leader of the business, and they value your experience, your knowledge, and that they're willing to trust you with some of those decisions. Because I think finding an investor who has that willingness to be consultative with you as the CEO, I think that's just incredibly powerful. And that's how we've been able to find success with both of the firms that have been investors in Truckstop.
Yeah, I like that, because they value what you as a leader can bring to guide, the company, as well as they trust you. So that's, let's parlay this to one other question for you. How important has culture been to Truckstop.com's success?
Oh, it has been incredibly important. And we talk about this all the time. I actually believe that culture trumps strategy. That, don't get me wrong, strategy is important. It's incredibly important. But I think culture can get you through difficult times more than strategy can. And we've experienced that. I mean, we've had a great run, over the course of the 9 years that I have been actively engaged in Truckstop. There have been some challenging times, and because of our culture that we've created, because we've created trust with our people, we've been able to work through those challenging times and continue to grow, where I think had we not had as strong a culture, it would have been for certain much more difficult than it was. So I just, we talk at Truckstop, we talk a lot about culture. We put a lot of emphasis on it. We have one of our executives, her title is the Chief People and Culture Officer. And she really looks after our people, looks after our culture, and she was an advisor to me as the CEO, and she's an advisor now to our new CEO.
Wow, if you take that, how does culture and determination and grit come in?
Yeah, I think that if you have a great culture, a place where people believe in the vision of the company, if the people believe in the leadership of the business and want to follow the leadership, not because they have to, but because they want to.
Mm-hmm.
I think, when you talk about grit, I think that enables the grit, or that enables the determination, because people are willing to do things that they normally wouldn't if there wasn't that strong culture. And so I really see culture as the enabler for individuals going above and beyond, or just doing excellent work within a company.
Paris, that was what I was talking to somebody just last week that said the grit is the determination, because that's when people go above and beyond the call of duty. They do more. And what was interesting is that as I've watched truckstop.com and watched your leadership over the last 6 years, it's been amazing how many people talk about the culture of truckstop.com. And it really starts with what you've accomplished there. So congratulations on that as the leader of truckstop.com and setting the standard for an amazing company. Now,
I appreciate that, Jay, but I will say I have to say it wasn't me that started this. This was Scott Moskrip, the founder. He created an environment where we could do things that where we've been able to enhance the culture from what he started. But as you know, Scott is just an incredible person, incredibly generous, and we've been able to do some pretty phenomenal things for our people.
Scott Moskrip is amazing, brilliant, amazing leader, and as you helped us do this a few years ago, we inducted him into the Idaho Technology Council Hall of Fame, and it was an honor for us to do so. Now let's ask another question. We have Paris Cole at the peak of his life, right? He's you're like a bear cat that has so much energy and gas left in the tank, right? I mean, you've got so much left. So you're retiring at this. What I would say, I'm going. Paris is retiring. He's got so much left to do. Let's talk about that. What's next for Paris Cole?
Yeah. I've been very fortunate. We've accomplished some great things as a team at Truckstop, and have been able to do things that very few companies in the world are able to do, quite frankly. And so I feel very fortunate. That being said, I've always believed that there's more to life than just working, and there's more than simply generating more money, whether it's for the investors, whether it's more money for myself, or whether it's trying to help our customers. While we've got phenomenal customers and it's a great industry, I feel personally that I feel a pull in different areas, some other things that I feel like I need to accomplish personally. And so some of those things primarily, or many of those things, I should say, relate to the community and better serving in our community. And while I've been able to do some things over the last 9 years, most of my mental and emotional capacity has been focused on Truckstop. And so now I'm to the point where I feel like that needs to change, and I need to start spending more of my time helping the community and also being around for my family and my wife's going back to school and
Nice.
So helping her and allowing her to do some of those things and not have as much.
We will be looking with great intent on this next iterations of what you're going to be doing. And I know as a person that grew up in the Treasure Valley in East Boise, Southeast Boise, and also over in Caldwell. And I'm sorry, I called you a Bearcat. I should have called you a Bengal because you're with Idaho State University graduate. That was a mistake on my part, Paris.
You can call me Bengal. You can call me a Cougar. I, went proud graduate of Caldwell High, and
all those. But we're going to see you do some. We'll just keep an eye on that. We'll have you back on the program in the future, and then we can kind of get an update on what's going on in Paris Cole's life. Does that sound good?
That sounds great.
I got one last question for you. Okay, the last question is if. As you look at the advice you would give to a person that is thinking about maybe taking more entrepreneurial activity, starting a company, or doing something that's taking this big risk in their life, what's the big piece of advice you'd give them as they look to start a new company or do something entrepreneurial?
I would say don't take investment money too soon. Make sure that you have good product market fit. Make sure that you have a customer base that's willing to pay for your product or service before you try to go out and raise money. And I know that that's difficult. That's a challenge. But I think that's part of the success of Truckstop. Quite frankly, is that when Scott founded Truckstop, he created the business model. So we were a SaaS company from day one. He had the vision to create a business model long before SaaS was even really a term. But he figured out how to be profitable before taking any money, and it was that process of going through that pain, going through those learnings, really listening to the customer and creating a product that they were willing to pay for. I think that has set us up in all of the years since then. And so that would be my advice is that, there's so much money available today that, everyone wants to invest in a company. And so while that may be attractive and exciting, I actually think it can be the downfall of many companies, because they never truly develop product market fit, and they never develop a customer base that's willing to just simply pay for the products and services that the company provides.
Great suggestion on the way, because if you get that product fit and you're able to then get customers, especially in a SaaS model like you had, then you have the profitability by which you can do a lot of things. And then when you sell, you have control of the company as opposed to someone else having control of the company, right? So,
right. And that's, quite frankly, that's what investors love. They love to see, and it's interesting right now. We see a big pullback in the public markets in technology companies. They're down, a fraction of what they were just a few months ago. Most of the companies that have taken a big hit on their stock price, those are the companies that aren't profitable and don't have a path to profitability. And I would maybe argue probably shouldn't have ever been public companies to begin with. But those are the ones that have really struggled. And it's because they never found that path to profitability, that product market fit, and that customer base that's willing to pay for it. And so
it's an interesting one, like Clearwater Analytics, who just did an IPO. They still are very strong with their IPO, but it's like a lot of them haven't been that way. You're right. They've taken massive hits on that because of that profitability piece and that right market match. I love that.
Yeah. And Clearwater is a great example. It's interesting, as I talk with the investment community, a lot of them when they talk about Truckstop, they talk about Clearwater, just because we both built businesses that are very profitable, that are growing well, and that's different than maybe how some technology companies have been built.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on that, Paris. We want to tell you thank you so much for taking the time with us and being the executive chair of the Idaho Technology Council for the last couple of years. And we wish you the best in all the things you're going to be pursuing with your retirement. But we know there's so much gas left in that Paris Cole tank. We're anxious to see the rest of it. All right.
All right. Sounds good.
And I'm going to Thanks, Paris Cole, again for being our guest. This is Jay Larson with the Idaho Technology Council. Thank you for listening. I'd like to thank the entire ITC membership for their continued support to help transform Idaho's future. Be sure to tune in on the 19th where I will be joined by Andy Scoggin of Stage.O and Scoggin Capital Investment to talk about the upcoming Stage.O conference, as well as the Capital Connect conference with the Idaho Technology Council. And again, thanks for joining us on Innovation Matters, because in Idaho, innovation does matter. Thank you so much.
Innovation Matters is a production of the Idaho Technology Council. For membership information and to get involved, visit our website at idahotechcouncil.org. Thanks for listening and helping us transform Idaho's future together.